This man started hearing a lot of noises coming from under his house, but what he didn't know was that this house was hiding a secret that would change his life forever. Simon had always dreamed of owning a house, a place to call his own, where he could build his future. When he finally purchased a charming yet affordable home on the outskirts of Dallas, he felt like his life was finally falling into place. But little did he know, beneath the foundation of his new sanctuary lay a secret so dark it would turn his world upside down. It all began on a quiet Saturday evening. Simon had just returned home from a long shift at work, eager to unwind. As he pulled into the garage, he heard a peculiar sound, a deep, grating noise, almost like metal scraping against stone. At first, he assumed something was wrong with his car. Maybe he had driven over a piece of debris. He stepped out, knelt beside his vehicle, and inspected the tires. Nothing, yet the noise persisted, a slow, rhythmic scratching, like something shifting beneath the ground. His curiosity turned to unease. He lowered himself further, pressing his ear to the cold concrete, and then crack. The cobblestones beneath him trembled. A jagged fracture snaked its way across the floor, the gaps widening before his very eyes. Simon stumbled back, heart pounding. Before he could react, a section of the garage floor collapsed inward, revealing a gaping hole. A rush of stale air, damp and earthy, rose from the darkness below. He could see the faint outline of a staircase. His first instinct was to run, but something inside him, curiosity, fear, or maybe both, compelled him to stay. With trembling hands, he grabbed his phone and called his father, a man who had always been his rock in times of uncertainty. Within minutes, his father arrived, flashlight in hand, his face etched with concern. Together, they hesitantly approached the mysterious opening. Who builds a staircase under a house, and why had no one mentioned it before? As they descended, the air grew colder, the walls damp with moisture. The deeper they went, the more the unsettling noise surrounded them, a whispering, scratching, almost breathing sound. At the bottom of the staircase, they found themselves standing in what appeared to be a hidden underground chamber. Dust and cobwebs coated the stone walls, and the dim light of their flashlights revealed something even more disturbing: rows of rusted metal cages, some large, some small, their doors swinging slightly as if recently disturbed. The floor was littered with old chains and discarded bones. Then came the sound that sent shivers down Simon's spine, a faint whimper. Simon's father turned, his eyes wide. They weren't alone down here. Simon stepped forward, his breath shallow, his pulse pounding. He directed his flashlight toward the source of the noise and gasped. A pair of terrified eyes stared back at him from the darkness. A frail figure, barely more than a shadow, huddled in the corner of one of the cages. Realization hit him like a freight train. This wasn't just some forgotten basement, it was a prison. Simon fumbled for his phone and, with shaking fingers, dialed 911. "This is Simon Carter. I just found something under my house. I think someone has been keeping people down here." The dispatcher's voice remained calm but firm. "Stay where you are. Officers are on their way." Simon and his father stood frozen, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. Who had built this underground chamber? Who had been using it? And most chilling of all, was the person responsible still out there, watching? Little did Simon know, this was only the beginning. Simon's heart pounded against his ribs as he stared at the frail figure in the cage. It was a woman, her face gaunt, her clothes tattered. She looked too weak to even speak, her wide, sunken eyes darting between Simon and his father, filled with a mixture of terror and hope. "Jesus," Simon's father muttered, stepping back. "What the hell is this place?" Simon swallowed hard, his throat dry. He had so many questions, but none of them mattered right now. Someone needed help. The woman's lips trembled as she tried to form words, but only a hoarse whisper escaped. "He's coming back." Simon's breath caught in his throat. He turned to his father, who had gone pale. Did she just say a noise? Footsteps above them. Simon's stomach twisted into a knot. The wooden beams of the house creaked under the weight of someone moving. The sound wasn't coming from the garage where they had entered, it was coming from inside the house. Someone was there. Simon instinctively reached for his father's arm, pulling him close. "Dad, we have to get out of here. Now," his father, ever the protective man, tightened his grip on the flashlight and took a cautious step forward, shining it into the darkened corners of the chamber. More cages, some empty, some containing objects too horrifying to focus on. But then at the far end of the room, a door. Simon hadn't noticed it before. It was partially hidden behind a set of rusted shelves. Unlike the rest of the underground space, this door wasn't made of stone or wood. It was solid steel, bolted shut. His father exhaled sharply. Whoever built this, they wanted to keep something in or keep people out. Another thud from upstairs. Simon didn't wait to find out who or what was up there. He grabbed his father's sleeve and whispered, "We can't stay here." His father hesitated only for a moment before nodding. They turned back toward the staircase, but just as they were about to ascend, a chilling sound froze them in place. The door at the top of the stairs creaked open. A sliver of dim light spilled down into the underground chamber. A shadow moved at the entrance and then footsteps descending the stairs. Whoever it was, they knew they were here. Simon's father reacted first, shoving him back into the darkness. They ducked behind an old, wooden crate, pressing themselves against the cold stone wall. Simon held his breath, gripping his phone so tightly that his knuckles turned white. A pair of heavy boots stepped onto the basement floor. The figure held a flashlight, its beam sweeping across the cages, the bones, the steel door. The light stopped right on the cage where the woman was. Simon could hear her ragged breathing. He could feel her fear. Then the man in the basement spoke. "I told you to stay quiet." His voice was calm, too calm. Simon felt his stomach churn as the man took a slow step forward. He wasn't just some stranger. He knew this place. He belonged here, and that meant he was the one who had built it. The woman whimpered, pressing herself against the bars. Simon's father, crouched beside him, reached into his pocket. He slowly, carefully pulled out a pocket knife, small but sharp. He whispered so low that only Simon could hear, "We're getting out of here." "Be ready." Simon nodded, swallowing his fear. The man took another step, then another. And just as his flashlight turned toward their hiding spot, the sound of sirens pierced the night. The police had arrived. The man froze. Simon saw his body stiffen, his head snapping toward the entrance. For a split second, there was silence. Then he ran, bolting toward the steel door at the far end of the chamber. He fumbled with a key, unlocking it in a frantic rush. Simon didn't think he acted. He lunged from his hiding spot, grabbing a rusted metal pipe from the ground and swinging it as hard as he could crack. The man stumbled, falling to his knees. His flashlight clattered to the ground. His father didn't hesitate either. He grabbed Simon by the arm, pulling him toward the stairs. "Go! Go!" They rushed up the staircase, bursting through the broken floor and into the garage just as the first red and blue flashes appeared outside. Simon turned, looking down into the darkness one last time. The man was still down there, scrambling to his feet, but something else caught Simon's eye. The steel door, it was open now, and beyond it was another tunnel. How deep did this place go? What else had been hiding beneath his house? And most terrifying of all, was this nightmare really over?